Okay, 7th graders, part 2. We're going to skip 334 because it just goes into decimals and things, and we don't need to worry about that right now. I want you just to get down the basic ones. If there are some decimal ones you want to do, you can feel free to use a calculator, okay, on your practice problems and whatnot. They won't be too difficult, but still, it's if it's too much for you, just focus on getting the process down. So now we're doing the exact same thing, but with ones that are subtraction. Okay, so the last ones were addition, this one's subtraction. And when we do the next ones, they're gonna be, guess, multiplication and division. Okay, all right. So we have -6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. So we have to isolate the variable to get it alone. All right, so it's a -5, a -5. So you do the opposite, you plus 5 on each side. That leaves nothing and leaves you just with n. -6 plus 5, you're at a -1. Okay, so n is less than or equal to -1, or you could say -1 is greater than or equal to n. So what could n be? Well, what could it be? If n is less than or equal to -1, it could be -1 or anything less than -1. So see how they flipped it around now to make it a little bit easier for us to read, because that's backward to what we're used to. So n is less than or equal to, -1. So you find -1. We're going to draw a dot, and then do we close it? Yeah, because it's got the line underneath. That means we're equal to. That means it can include this number. And then what way is the arrow pointing? That way. So if they ever try to trick you because they've put it backward like this, just flip it around. Just be careful. Say, okay, that arrow's pointing to the end. So when I flip it, the arrow still has to point to the end. Okay. And of course, then they do subtraction with decimals. It's rough, man, but all you do, it's plus 2.3 on each side. I swear I can write 2s and 3s. Just maybe not today. All right. This was a negative, so you do the inverse, which is a positive. That leaves nothing, because that would equal 0. So you're left with x is greater than or equal to. And then what's this bad boy going to be? Let's see. 5 plus 3, 8. Since we're adding and subtracting, we just pull down the 0. And then -8 plus 2 is, what would it be? Can you think? It's going to be a negative because that 8's a higher absolute value number. It's going to be 6. Okay, -6. Because if you're at -8 and then you find $2, you're going to go up to more closer to the 0. So -6.8. So we find it on there, and then we would graph it. Okay, so but if you see this now, look what I did. Okay, say, wait, what? There is no 6.8. Right? Because this is not a typical problem. This is the -1. So it doesn't work. So you can pull out a calculator, which is why I did that, to show you. You think it's so easy, but it's not. And remember, on any like testing, standardized testing that you do, or even with me, if you have the decimals and I allow you to use it, the calculator, you can use the calculator. So basically you have a 2.3 and you're minusing out 8.5. Do you see how I reversed that? And look, see that simple error. So please, if you're going to use the decimal ones on your practice problems, because they assign quite a few of them, use a calculator on your Chromebook or something to just double check. Because as you can see, it should be right here. So do you see why that didn't work? So it should be -6.2. All right, good. Glad we had that so you can see. And now it is a filled in circle. And it goes to the right. Done. Boom. All right. And that's how we do it. So now let's do some practice problems. All right. Over here on page 339, we have some practice problems. If you want to do these more than online, you certainly can. Just email me some answers. I'm going to do a few of them. As you can see, there's tons of decimals and fractions. So if you're going to do these guys, you're going to want to use a calculator, okay? This one doesn't, but they do get tricky because in this case, like the X will be backwards, so you gotta be careful. So we'll try that. All right, we're gonna minus 5 on each side because that's a plus 5. That leaves you with X is less than, what's 7 minus 5? 2, okay? So you find a 2, you make a circle. Do we fill it in? Nope, there's no line underneath. And it goes this way. Okay, over here. All right, oh no, the X is on that side. What are we gonna do? It's fine, you're cool. Minus 6 from each side because you still have to isolate the variable to get the variable alone. That's your key. 6 minus 6 equals nothing, so you're left with X. And then that symbol's that way. 1 minus 6 would be a negative 5. So let's flip it. Let's make it so the X is over here. What way is that arrow pointing? It's pointing right to the X, so you just flip it there. Negative 5. See how easy that is? Okay. X is less than negative 5. Find negative 5, make the circle. It's not filled in, and we go this way. Please don't think that it's going to be going this way. You will get it wrong because it's not. You have to flip it to make the variable on the left to get it to be an easier read for you. Because if you read it, X is less than negative 5. That means whatever number you want to fill in has to be smaller, less than negative 5. Can't include negative 5 because there's no equal to sign under there. But it could be negative 6 because that's less than negative 5. It could be negative 7 because that's less than negative 5. Negative 2 is greater than negative 5 because it's closer to the 0. Same with negative 3 and negative 4, okay? If it's less than, remember your number gets greater negative, okay? If you owe someone $10 and then you borrow $10 more from someone else, you're gonna owe negative 20, or you're gonna owe 20, which is a negative 20. And that is less than, okay? That's less money. Let's do one more. Over here, minus 8, because we gotta isolate that variable. 14 minus 8, okay, we got 6. X is greater than or equal to, so you find the 6, and you fill it in, and it points that way. Okay? All right, now remember, if you're going to use the decimals, you're going to go minus 5.4 minus 5.4. This one's easier than the other one because they're two negatives, so you can just kind of add them together and it'll be a bigger negative, all right? But over here, if you're going to subtract, okay, same thing, all right? And that's how you do it. Good luck.